Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle something we all deal with, that constant nagging feeling of fear and worry. We'll explore a really powerful method for building what you could call mental immunity, all based on the timeless wisdom of William Walker Atkinson. So, let's get started.
First things first, let's ask a really important question. Why is it that a thought, something that's just in your head and hasn't even happened, can feel so incredibly real, so powerful that it can basically hijack your entire day?
And here's the answer, and it's a game changer. Your mind is basically a prediction machine. It's always running simulations about the future. And when it runs a negative simulation, what we call a worry, it doesn't feel like a story. It feels like a preview of coming attractions. And your body, well, it reacts as if it's all happening right now. That's the secret. That's why fear feels so real.
So here's our roadmap. We're going to unpack that whole fear prediction problem. We'll look at how our minds can sometimes act like a worry magnet, and maybe most importantly, why our gut instinct to just fight off fear usually backfires. Then we'll get to the good stuff, the solution, what's called the replacement principle, see how it works in real life, and wrap up with one simple thing you can start doing today.
Okay, so let's get into the core concept from Atkinson's work. He had this idea that our thoughts kind of work like magnets. Whatever thought you're holding on to, it tends to pull in other, similar thoughts and feelings right along with it. Now, what he called energetic forces over 100 years ago, we can kind of think about today through concepts we know from psychology, like confirmation bias. It's pretty simple, really. Whatever you consistently focus on becomes the filter you see the world through. Your brain actually goes out and looks for evidence to prove that your dominant thoughts are true.
And this really shows you the two sides of that coin, because this whole process works both ways. If you're always expecting something to go wrong, your mind is scanning for every little sign of trouble. But, on the flip side, if you cultivate a strong, confident sense of expectancy, your focus naturally shifts to opportunities and solutions. The key thing to get is that the mechanism itself is neutral. It's our expectation that points it in one direction or the other.
So if a negative thought is like a magnet, our first instinct is to just fight it, right? To try and push it away. But here's the really counterintuitive part. That struggle is exactly what gives the negative thought all of its power.
Atkinson put it perfectly. He basically said that trying to wrestle with a negative thought is a total waste of time. It's like getting into a tug of war with your own shadow. The very act of resisting and fighting just makes you focus more intensely on the exact thing you're trying to get rid of.
And this is what creates that vicious cycle we can call the worry loop. It goes like this. A negative thought pops into your head, you react, and you try to force it out. But by doing that, you're giving it your full, undivided attention, which just feeds it and makes it seem bigger and more powerful. It's that classic don't think of a pink elephant problem. The instruction itself makes it impossible to follow.
So, if fighting fear doesn't work, what on earth are we supposed to do? Well, this brings us to the core solution, and it's based on a really beautiful, simple metaphor. You don't get rid of darkness by fighting it. You just turn on the light.
The principle here is so elegant. You overcome a negative thought not by attacking it directly, but by actively cultivating its opposite. Instead of trying to suppress fear, you focus all your energy on building up courage. You essentially starve the negative thought by feeding the positive one.
Okay, now this is such a critical distinction. Look at the difference here. When you say I am not afraid, what's the main word? Afraid. You're still keeping fear as the star of the show. It's a denial. But when you assert, I am courageous, you completely change the frame. Now courage is the focus. You're directing all your mental energy toward the quality you actually want. You're shifting from defense to offense.
So how do we actually do this? Well, it breaks down into 3 simple connected habits. First, you think it. You hold a mental picture of yourself acting with courage. Second, you say it. You use strong affirmative language. And third, you act it. You physically act out the motions of confidence. Stand taller, speak more clearly, even if you don't feel it at first, because your mind and your body are always talking to each other. All right, let's bring this down to earth and see how this actually works in a few everyday situations. Remember, this isn't some abstract mental trick. It's a practical strategy for retraining your default responses to life.
Just look at these examples. At work, instead of that spiral of I'm going to fail, you replace it. You shift your focus to I am confident and well prepared. In relationships, instead of assuming the worst, they're upset with me, you assert your positive intention. I will communicate openly. And for habits, you switch out that hopeless thought, I'll never change, with a powerful statement of intent.
I can and I will. This all sounds great, but the big question is, where do you start? You need a simple, go-to practice you can use the second you catch yourself in a fear thought. So let's call it the fear to courage switch. Here's how it works, and it's super simple. Step 1. Just notice the thought. Don't fight it, don't judge yourself for having it, just see it. Step 2. Take a calm breath. This creates a little pause, a space between the thought and your reaction. Step 3. Deliberately, consciously state its courageous replacement. And finally, step 4. Repeat that new, courageous thought a few times. Let it sink in. With every rep, you're building a new mental muscle.
So, to wrap it all up, here's the bottom line. Fear feels real because our brain is treating a prediction like it's happening right now. Trying to fight that prediction just makes it stronger. The real solution, the path to mental immunity, is to stop fighting and start replacing. You actively build the habit of courage through your thoughts, your words, and your actions, until that becomes your new default setting.
And that brings us to our final question, something for you to think about. What is one recurring fear thought that you can practice replacing with courage this week? Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to check out the rest of our Thought Vibration series for more insights just like this.